Oh boy, what a time it has been. But regardless of server instability, bots crashing channels for 2 weeks, I managed to finish up in less time than it took to finish Dual Blade. That was my bare minimum goal. I'm not having a class that was this surprisingly good be slower than Dual Blade. This time, we did Mihile. I'm honestly impressed and a little disappointed because this class has the makings of a really good class. It's just lacking in damage and quality of life mainly. Like, it has all the tools it needs, but it just doesn't do the damage it needs or have the ability to use its tools for as long as it needs. Now, this being my first warrior that isn't Demon Avenger, I'll go over all of my gear. As with all 250s, my drop gear. And some of this is going to change up here in the near future because I am planning on making a meso farming character. So I'll be moving over some of my drop gear that has drop and meso and my 2-line earrings. Mainly because my main way of making meso in Bara has really slowed down now that the market actually has value in it. And that's kind of a blessing and a curse. Also, this +1 invincibility line, I don't know if it made proccing Royal Guard easier or if it made it more difficult, but it felt fine for me. I don't know, I don't think you want this line, but if you have it, it's not going to hurt that bad. I didn't notice it making my life any worse. But yeah, I'll be making a meso farming character, so I don't know how I'm going to go about doing that yet. Because in order to get the best rates, I'm going to have to move my Frenzy Totem over. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to be meso farming and just like grinding drops for at least a week on the character. So I don't know if I'm going to do like a week out of every month, a week every 2 months or whatnot, but once I get there, I might slow down these 250s a little bit because I need to make meso to keep doing this. Star forcing and gearing these things is pretty difficult without meso. And for the V Matrix, also important thing for Mihile, you absolutely need attack speed in her. You absolutely need it. I would honestly say decent speed infusion and green pot also are absolute musts for this class, because training without them kinda hurts. It's painful. Your animations are just slightly too long that they feel real clunky without that attack speed. And since I'm so pressed for Monster Park coins, I just can't train with green pot. So I just have to live with that clunk. But for anyone out there who wants to play Mihile as a main, absolutely get green pots. It'll make your life 10 million times better. For the V Matrix, always maxed out decent holy symbol. Just a perfect skill. Second skill, Radiant Soul. I have problems with this skill, but I'll get to that at the end of the video. For what it is, it's okay, but it should be better. It's good at low levels. It has really good base damage, so you don't need to worry about maxing this out. Sword of Light. Perfect skill. Honestly great. If they got rid of the Royal Guard like stack requirement, it'd be even better. But with the Royal Guard stack requirement, it's pretty okay. And now your most important tri-node, Royal Guard, Radiant Cross, and 4-point Assault. Those are your 2 mobbing skills and your bossing skill. And then your second tri-node will be Radiant Driver, Charging Light, and Final Attack. Honestly, for now, you really only need Charging Light and Final Attack, but in the future, Radiant Driver and all Warrior Rush skills are going to get upgraded so that you can use them as up jumps, so I figured you might as well just get that on your second tri-node since you need an extra skill in that slot, and it's going to be a much more useful skill in the future. Weapon Aura, I still like this skill. I still like it. I don't know why, because it's not that great, but I like it. You don't need it at a very high level. Decent Sharp Eyes. And the last special skill for Mihile, Shield of Light. Honestly, unless you're in party bossing, you don't need this. Like, the only time I think I used this that actually benefited me was in Hard Magnus. Even then, I did most of my Hard Magnus without ever using this. So I don't think it's really that useful unless you're in party bossing, in which case then it's a fantastic supportive ability. But just grinding, not really useful. Doesn't really help that much. The damage percent you get from it is okay, but not great. True Arachnid Reflection, you get it for free for completing the Will storyline. Pretty good. Decent speed infusion, as I said before, absolute must. Put this on as fast as you possibly can, because having 0 attack speed as a Mihile absolutely makes this class feel so much better. And rope lift, because warriors have booty mobility, and you need rope lift to get around. Now Mihile's mobbing, people don't like it, but honestly, training to 250, you really get used to Royal Guard. And it's pretty darn good once you get used to it. 200 to 210, just like most classes, Eastern Cave Path, or below the cave. I usually go to Eastern Cave Path since it's less popular, it's easier to find a map with decent burning. And your rotation is pretty simple, because you can hit both of these with your cross. Also, this Instill Cross, it's okay. I have my problems with it. I'll get to that again at the end. That's kind of how Mihile's gonna go. I like it, but I have problems with it. And your rotation is pretty much just jump and attack. You don't need to really worry about Royal Guarding in this map because it doesn't benefit you that much, because you can just cycle in, what the heck was this called again? Charging Light or Sword of Light to hit the big top ones. And especially when the platform on the far right is that low, you can hit it even with the level 1 Charging Light. Or the level 1 Sword of Light, the little tiny one. It'll still hit that top. And you'll get through these levels pretty quick. You can even use your Sword of Light and have a nice, cooler attack. And it clears really fast. You'll get through these levels super easy. And it's not very difficult because you don't have to rely on Royal Guard that much. Now the next map. You kind of need to rely on Royal Guard a lot for this one. So this is really where I learned how to time Royal Guard. And even now that I know how to time it, it's still not super consistent because lag definitely plays a part in this. But I did it here, at the Fly-Ons. It's a nice small map. Luckily enough, my Lucid Soul was dealing okay damage here. I think I was 2-shotting when I was here. Now it's 1-shotting, even better. But the rotation is pretty simple. Lucid Soul goes over there, you'll let her do her thing, and you take this right one. What you do is you use Charging Light to clear, and you'll proc your shield on cooldown. Now, these guys are a good place to train yourself how to proc your Royal Guard, because their attack animation is very, very easy to see, and it's very easy to tell when it ends. So all you need to do is wait for one of them to raise their hands, and then you press Royal Guard. Royal Guard is weird how it works, in that Royal Guard will not proc until the enemy's attack animation ends, which means it can be super, super delayed. Like, you'll think you'll miss it, and then one random Fly-On's attack animation will end, and then Royal Guard will proc. The only way you really miss Royal Guard here is if you just time it immediately after you get hit, which it'll happen. No matter how good you get at this, you'll fuck up that timing quite a lot if you're grinding to 250. Like, I just messed it up twice there. But yeah, the rotation here, pretty simple. Just set Lucid on a side, and then jump attack here, and then Royal Guard, spam Charging Light, spam your Sword of Light on cooldown. It's not the greatest EXP, but it's a good way to train yourself to use Royal Guard, because that becomes very important once you get to 235. Your best rotations demand that you're good at Royal Guard, otherwise you're gonna get really bad EXP. But 220 to 230, and yes, 230, because I'm not gonna lie, Arcana kinda sucks for Mihile. Surprising, I know. Arcana bad, who would have thunk it? But again, the most overpowered map in Lachlan. I'm gonna say it every one of these videos. Rev Place 3. It's dumb how good this map is. Lose the soul on the house, and you can just jump and hit all this. Use Charging Light, jump, just use Royal Guard on cooldown so that you can keep it at max stats, and then just cycle Charging Light and Sword of Light to hit that top platform. The XP rate is good. It's really good, and it's not that hard to train on. I would honestly say this was easier than Dual Blade because after fly-ons, I got really good at timing my Royal Guard, so I never felt like it was a detriment to use it. Also, there's a nifty trick to like getting consistent Royal Guard procs, and that's to jump yourself into the mob and then shield, but a lot of times you won't really have access to that. And if you're having trouble proccing Royal Guard, you could turn on your hyper skill Sacred Cube. That'll give you an extra half second to proc it. Really super duper handy. Usually what I do when I'm trying to get the initial 5 stacks of Royal Guard, I'll turn this on just to make it easier. But if you're still having trouble even with that on, you can also turn on Radiant Soul, which also gives you another half second. So that gives you a 2-second window. Well, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds with lag, where you'll be able to just block an ability super easy, and you'll get your 5 stacks. And then once you're at 5 stacks, you have enough leeway to miss like 3 Royal Guards in a row before you start actually losing efficiency. So it'll help. But this isn't the only map you can train in here. At like peak population coronavirus times, Rev Place 3 is usually pretty populated during peak hours. So I trained in Red Dancing Shoes a little bit too. Honestly, also not a bad map. Not as good as Rev 3, but way less popular. The only people you're really going to meet here are a couple hackers occasionally. As with Rev 3, Lucid on the house. It's kind of her place to be. And then you just stand in the middle here. You can clear the top with that, and you can clear the middle and the bottom just by attacking left and right. So your goal is to use your AoEs, Royal Guard, Sword of Light, and Charging Light, to clear the top one, and then you just attack left and right down here. Now this one also requires that you get good at proccing your Royal Guard. But this is again a very easy place to train yourself to get good at Royal Guard, because these mobs have very obvious attack animations. It's pretty easy to see when the animation starts and when it ends. The only downside to this place is the mob stun. It gets annoying, but it doesn't really hurt your rates that badly. And for as easy as this gets, once you get the attack patterns down, like, look at this, I'm barely moving and I'm practically clearing the whole map with Lucid Soul doing her thing up there. And see right there, how I used Royal Guard early at the start of the animation? Normally that would miss and I wouldn't get the proc, but since the animation is so long, it delays Royal Guard so that it still works. Now that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it becomes really clunky if the servers are lagging. Like, Royal Guard will just freeze you in place at random times because, for whatever reason, they gave Royal Guard a start and ending animation that locks you in place. But that's another gripe I'll get to at the end. And now 230 to 235. I'm gonna be honest, all these maps suck. they really do. The CLP is awful because with Frenzy Spawn, the mobs are just so fucking close to you, and they have such fast attack animations that proccing Royal Guard consistently is nigh impossible. It's pretty much pure RNG if you're getting the timings right. And there's no easy way to proc it either, because you can't like jump into mobs, because the mobs are everywhere. You have to jump through the mobs to get to them. A lower path 1 is a little better because you can proc it more consistently, so I used this instead of CLP primarily, but it also has the problem there's no real good rotations here. I kind of just opted to set Lucid on the side and use Radiant Soul on cooldown, because really, the ability to hit the top and bottom at the same time, it's really good, but Radiant Soul doesn't last long enough to make the EXP good. Like, Radiant Soul only lasts 30 seconds. It's really kind of pathetic. And it only hits 8 mobs. God, I don't know why. Hey, I'm not going to miss this nodestone, guys. I've learned from my... Oh wait, I don't have my pets out. Never mind, I haven't learned from my Xenon video. Not going to miss my thing this time. But yeah, you just jump and attack with Radiant Sword. And it's okay while this is active, you can proc Royal Guard fairly easily. And look, really delayed Royal Guard because of the attack animation. And, I mean, you could stay here until 250, it's not terrible. It's not great. Like, if you don't have the damage for Esfera, this would probably be your map to go to. But it just feels weird for me to rotate this map, because there's no, like, proper cycle I can do. It's kind of just... It's got like Shadower Syndrome, where I'm paying too much attention to how I'm grinding so that I get efficient rates, that it becomes unfun. But there is another map you can do here, which is bad, but I tried with this 250 to train with a controller as much as possible because my wrists were really starting to hurt. And I figured, well, the only logical step up is to learn how to play with a controller. Now this map works, but the jump attack required here is really tight. And I don't know why, but on a keyboard, it's harder for me to hit this than it is with my controller. But it's pretty simple. It's just jump, and at the apex of your jump, you can hit both of these platforms. It's a tight platform, so you can barely hit it. Your cross won't hit the top, which kind of sucks, but you can hit it. And your rotation will just be jumping through the map like this. Now with your controller, this is a really simple and quite relaxing training method. But it's not good, so I wouldn't recommend it, but it is an option for you if you're playing on controller. Or you would just like want to coin cap super lazily. But honestly, Arcana is not great. More S isn't good either. So your next stop is at 235 in Esfera. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is where Mihile gets good. This is where the mobbing feels so fluid. MTS3. Honestly, I enjoyed the heck out of training here as a Mihile, because it feels pretty darn good. The only downside, Lucid Soul as always in Esfera, and especially so as a warrior, doesn't really do much. She's like 6-shotting right now, but she doesn't need to do much, because we don't need her to do much. Mihile does fairly good here on its own. Rotation is just set Lucid there, flash jump along the bottom, rope lift up, charging light at the top, jump over, and then when you're falling, like when you're jumping from here down, you want to jump early enough that you're not going to hit those top mobs and ruin your Royal Guard timing, but late enough that you're actually going to land in the mobs on that bottom platform. And then instead of charging light, since it's on cooldown, we cycle in Sword of Light. And this is your rotation. You jump in a circle. And your cooldowns are perfectly timed for this. Oh, it's so good. It's just like all the pieces fall in place here. Everything works together. And yeah, you just jump and you get almost 100% consistency with your Royal Guard there because you're falling into the mobs. You can control when you hit the mobs. So you can almost guarantee you're getting that Royal Guard proc, and it feels really good. Because it benefits your mobbing so much to have guaranteed Royal Guards. Because it's a huge part of your mobbing with Frenzy. It's almost half of your mobbing even, if you get good at proccing it. It's very, very good EXP all the way to 250. The only downside is it's a lot of button pressing. So it was not easy to do on a controller, so... Jesus Christ, that's a big noise outside. I don't know if you guys heard that. But it's a lot of button pressing on a controller, and I really couldn't do it, so I had to default back to using keyboard for this place. Which is why I tried to train in Arcana as much as possible, but the EXP rates were so booty, I ended up just having to bite the bullet and sacrifice my wrists a bit to train here. And honestly, once you're 235, getting through to 250 isn't bad. The only like negative things about this is if you don't have access to green pot, it's not very fluid. Like, I make this look pretty seamless now, but you'll miss flash jumps a lot if you're clicking too fast, because there's a lot of end delay to Radiant Cross that you just have to get used to unless you're training on a green pot, in which case Royal Cross feels pretty good, because it actually ends when it should. It doesn't have a weird exit lag to it. But yeah, training here, nice rotation, nice map. I was really happy there was actually something good here, because I was really getting anxious that there wouldn't be anything better than Arcana for Mihile, because oh my god, Arcana's not great. Like, this is the first class where Arcana has just kind of sucked. But that's the mobbing. For the bossing, it's interesting. It's interesting. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. It's like, you are practically immortal if you're good at timing Royal Guard. Like, almost nothing can kill you. Like, you can block Magnus's dive, you can block Magnus's knockback, you can block his charge, you can block his balls, you can block C-Vel, tails, you can block practically anything in the game with Royal Guard, and that feels really good. The problem is, you don't really have damage to be a solo bosser unless you're really funded. And Radiant Soul is kind of the reason. Like, I don't know what they want from this skill, because it feels like this is supposed to be your burst mode. You get attack percent, you get 100% IED. This is supposed to be your bossing burst. And while you are stronger while this is active, it's not that much stronger. And it's also like, this is supposed to be an improved mobbing skill, but at the same time, it's not really improved mobbing. It hits 8 mobs. That's really pathetic. It's only got a 30-second uptime with a 180-second downtime. Like, this is worse than Split Shot, and that's pretty bad. If it had 50% uptime like Split Shot, I could see this being okay, but as it is right now, it's just kind of useless. Like, in MTS3 you saw I never used this skill because really there is no use for this skill. The only time I used this is when an elite boss spawned and I would just pop it to get the extra damage to melt the elite. But at the same time, it's not that great at melting the elite. Also, this has a really bad design in that you need your attack key. Yeah, your basic attack key. You need that mapped to a hotkey or else you can't use this. That's really dumb design because on most of my 250s, I don't have this key mapped because it's not really that useful, and I don't like having to use this just to use the skill. I don't know why when this is active it doesn't just replace Radiant Cross as Radiant Cross. That would make sense in my mind, like just have this work as Radiant Cross, have it instill your placeable cross, and then it would serve the purpose it's meant to. Because right now, your rotation is you have to set down your cross, and then you need to hold down your attack key. Because the cross is a big benefit to your DPS, so you need to replace it like every 10 attacks or so. I don't know why they don't just make it so that this procs the cross. But that's kind of nitpicky. Honestly, if they wanted to make this better, I would say make it a 50% uptime and bump that max enemies hit to 15. Because, let's be real, it's a 5th job skill. It shouldn't feel this mediocre. But that's just my opinion. The Sword of Light, the Royal Guard stacks requirement to actually get the big Sword of Light proc. Yeah, you get used to it. I could see an argument for getting rid of it, but they want to promote people to actually use the Royal Guard mechanic, and I kind of agree with that because it's not that difficult once you get used to it. There are a bunch of occasions where Frenzied Spawn makes this just pure RNG, whether you can proc it or not, but no problems with that. Shield of Light, it's really only for bossing utility. Like, you're a good tank, you help your team survive, you give a little bit of defense, but really for solo play, this does nothing for Mihile pretty much. So I don't know. Like, the bossing wasn't particularly bad, it was just slow. I never felt like I was gonna die out of a boss because, again, once you get good at proccing Royal Guard, you are practically invincible. Nothing can hurt you. It's fun fighting a boss knowing that you're not gonna lose any lives at all. And it's also really good in Mulung Dojo for climbing because you can just block anything. You can just block anything. There's no threatening abilities for you anymore. You can just block them all. But the boss, again, it's just not that strong. I don't know how I feel about Mihile because it feels like it could be really good. Also, small nitpick, Radiant Driver is the worst rush skill in the entire fucking game. Look at this. Look how god-awful this is. Look at that range. I am holding the key down. Look how slow this is. It's so pitiful. What is this useful for? I hope they're buffing like the animation speed and the range on this with the rush update for warriors, but that's just a small nitpick. Oh, it's so awful. It's so bad. Oh. But yeah, Really, I don't understand all the ire that Mihile gets. I think people just don't want to learn how Royal Guard works. Like, they don't want to put the time into getting good at proccing this, and they think the class is just big booty because all you have is your cross and charging light, and this really dinky sort of light since they're not using Royal Guard. But once you get Royal Guard down, the class really has no issues training, besides Arcana, but that's not a fault of Mihile's, really. That's just a happenstance of the maps. So I don't think it's that bad. I would honestly recommend Mihile for anyone who wants to play a tank. I haven't played Paladin yet, that's the other quote-unquote tank of MapleStory. But so far I'm really impressed with Mihile. You definitely feel tanky because nothing can kill you. If you get good at Royal Guard, the only way you die is if you kill yourself, pretty much. Like, crazy thing that I learned by accident, you can Royal Guard screen crack in Arcarium. Like, that big full map one shot that just kills you? Yeah, you can block that shit. Mihile is so much cheese to bosses. Oh, it's so funny. I really like Royal Guard. 250 levels with this skill, it's really grown on me. It's a great skill. It's just the other 5th job skills, really besides Sword of Light. Sword of Light is good in my eyes, but Shield of Light and Radiant Soul, yeah, they could use improvements. Radiant Soul especially. I think this is my biggest issue with the class. It's just it's a worse split shot. And if you watch my marksman video, you'll know my opinions on split shot. But that's Mihile. I don't want to ramble too much longer. I enjoyed this 250. I did. The servers are the reason this one took too long, because honestly this 250 should have been done 2 weeks ago. Hell, even almost 3 weeks ago, with the fiasco that was the anniversary patch that pretty much killed the game for 2 days. Then there was the familiar update, which pretty much killed the game for another 2 days. Then there was the familiar removal, which took the game down for another day. And then there was just the bot apocalypse in Barra, where literally at one point I was trying to train and my channel got crashed 16 times in 1 hour by bots mass CCing to elite boss spawns, and that went on for 2.5 weeks. So there was pretty much no way I could grind during that time. It really slowed down my progress on this 250. I know I had a lot of people asking me, "Whoa, you're going pretty slow. What, do you slow it down? You're not enjoying the grind?" No, I still like the grind. I still like doing 10k Legion. It's just when the game is unplayable, there's not much I can do about it. But as soon as that last patch that just hit, the botters have been practically dealt with. I haven't been DC'd by them mass CCing. So I grinded as much as I possibly could to get this done in time, because I think it'd be, what, 3 more days from now and it would have taken as long as Dual Blade, and there is no way in hell. No way. A class this good at training is not going to take me longer than Dual Blade. I refuse. But that's Mihile done. Oh, let's update my Legion piece. Yeah, it'll be overlapping, but who gives a hoot. For the next 250, I don't know what I'm going to do. Also, since I am making my Meso character, we might have a Zero video in the quote-unquote near future. I don't know when I'm going to finish up the gear for that, but once the gear is finished and I do finally do my first like Meso farming session on Zero, I'll make a video for Zero as well. So that'll be coming for one of the pre-Battle Mage 250s. The other early 250s, Night Lord, Nightwalker, Shadower, Kana. I did Beast Tamer. I think just those. Yeah, just those. They'll come eventually. I think probably after I'm done with my 10k Legion, because as you can see, they don't have gear. They're just using Star Force set. Like, they don't have any gear, and I move all of my Arcane Force per 250, so they don't have Arcane Force either. So actually showing off how to grind and where to grind is kind of difficult when you can't actually kill the mobs. But I will get to them in the future, but it'll be quite a ways off because I've got a lot of 250s to go before I can start backtracking. As for the next 250, I got a few options in mind. One's a little tricky. The other one's kind of technically tricky, but haven't decided which one I'll go with yet. Hope you'll wait for that video. Hope you won't have to wait as long as this video. But as always with this 250s, if you have any questions about my 10k Legion grind, about playing as Mihile, about playing MapleStory in general, please ask down below. I make sure with all of these videos, even if you find them 5, 10, 15 months down the line, I try to answer any and all questions that these videos get, because there are a lot of new players in the game right now with the whole virus outbreak, and they have a lot of questions, so if I can help in any way, that'd be great. But that's it for this 250. I hope you liked the video. See you next time.